Okay. Well, welcome everyone. So good to see your faces and to have you here. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome. And it's such a perfect time to be talking about intuition because it's fall equinox. And equinox is the days and the nights are equal amount of hours. And so we have the balance of yin and yang right now. And the balance of yin and yang with intuition is always right in the center. It's not action, and it's inner connection. Then action comes from that inner intuition. Then action comes, the yang. So it's really the perfect blend. But intuition itself is very neutral. It's not excited. It's not. I remember somebody that used to work for me, and she said, Rebecca, you need to be more optimistic. And I said, I'm not optimistic and I'm not a pessimist. I'm intuitive. So intuition is not optimistic or pessimistic. It's neutral. And you may feel like when you get an intuitive feeling, you might feel really excited about it, or you might not feel very good about it. It's information, but it's neutral. And so it's perfect that we are here on the equinox because it is that centered, equal place that's centered in the middle. And it's also, we just celebrated Harvest Moon. And I hope that you all took some time to honor what you've been harvesting this year. What are their victories, inner victories, things that you've accomplished? So Paula, you said you had a couple things. Would you mind sharing that?
Yes. A couple of things was to become certified as a Circle of Life holistic coach. I'm very proud of that. And also to be certified as in Tai Chi Easy, which was something I've wanted to do. That just happened a couple of months ago.
Wow, go girl. Wow, that's a lot. And is there any inner victory for you?
Yes. Throughout the year, I had, felt a push to do things, and an inner victory through the coaching process helped me to put more perspective in my life and to slow down and appreciate where I am. Living more in present moment has helped me tremendously.
Oh, beautiful.
That's a huge victory.
Isn't that kind of like the biggest one? Like when we really
yeah.
When we have those inner victories, and then it reflects out in our life. Yeah. We see life through a new lens. So thank you, Paula.
You're welcome.
So it's always good with ourselves and our clients and everyone to always bring up those changes or victories or things we've overcome, or even things we just had to go through. Just like I remember Deepak Chopra talked about karma. He said there's 3 levels of karma. One is that you go through it, you just go through it. You go through a hellish thing. You just go through it. You just kind of burn it, purge it just by going through it. The second one is something really hard in your life and you use it to serve others. And he gave the example of MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. When, mothers who had children killed by drunk drivers, they started this organization. So they used their really rough, intense karma to serve others. That's the second level. Third was to transcend it, to actually transcend it, to go into a state of who you truly are, where it's not affecting you. So I just always like to think about that when I'm going through my karmic experiences. So let's just take a moment to take a few deep breaths and center in. And I invite you, if you want to kind of open your hands. It can be on your lap or up. And we just offer up right now in this beautiful equinox, full moon energy, just allow and give permission to ourselves to release self-judgment, conditioned patterns or habits that don't serve us, our fears, our concerns. Just allow them to go up and out. And I like to raise my hands and just offer that to the light, to the greater forces. I call it the benevolent forces of the universe. Just offer up myself, my feelings, my struggles, my blocks, my patterns. I just allow and give permission to let them be dissolved, let them be in this present moment, start moving through me, up and out. And then bringing the hand into the prayer position to the heart. And intuition, I have a lot of different things, and you can find out if you're really wanting to tune into your intuition, is if you close your eyes for a moment and see if this resonates with you, otherwise change the words to what really feels true for you. But I'm open, willing, and receptive to my intuition to connect what is optimal for my highest good now. So intention is so powerful. And when we really are not resisting our intuition, and there's reasons why we resist it, we talked about some of that and there's some of the worksheets that talks about it. You know, we've had something in the past happen that you start not trusting your intuition because it didn't work out very well, or somebody put you down, or you know, closed you off, or whatever happened, something happened that made you not trust your intuition. And so you're not as open to it, or you don't follow it. Something happened, or something happened. I remember, you know, I used to be like really, you know, kind of fundamentalist Christian. I lived in a Christian commune. And so I didn't believe in past lives or anything. But then I became a body worker, a massage therapist, and I became a hypnotherapist. And so I would do this hypnotherapy, and then people would be talking about these other lives. And I was like, just real clearly, and like just historical things that I would end up reading about that happened. And I realized that then that I don't know if I believe in past lives, but there's maybe parallel lives, or maybe there's past lives or whatever. But there's more to it than just what you think you're blocked about. That we are connected collectively, culturally, in our DNA. And so we need to give ourselves a lot of grace when we feel stuck, and a lot of compassion. And in following your intuition, just like I do in anything, to me, compassion and acceptance is number one. So when we accept whatever is happening, I accept I'm really angry. I accept I'm really scared. I accept that I'm lost. I accept that I made this really huge mistake, and then I'm having all these ramifications from it. I forgive myself, you know, I accept and forgive myself. I feel that that is such a huge block, and then it becomes an opening to receive more. Because as long as we're shut down or have resistance, it's really hard to hear it, your intuition, and it's really hard to follow it. So whenever I feel stuck, I tune into like, what am I holding on to? And I always start with self-forgiveness, because no matter what happened in my life, there's always some part that I was involved in. And so I just want to start there. And then I go to forgiving what the other person or whatever. So as soon as I get out of self-blame and judgment or blaming others, the energy gets big. You expand. Now it's open. And then you're more receptive to grace and intuition and movement that wants to happen through you because you're not stuck in this, you're not holding on energetically, physically, mentally to something that's keeping you locked in your mind. So in our first session, I had this, I didn't give you this worksheet, but this one's calling recognize the power of your intuition. We talked about that last week, but this is a really good process for you and for your clients, because when we're looking at intuition, we want to have people start recognizing how does their intuition speak to them. And so that they start, the more that they're attuned to how they receive messages, then they can notice it. They become aware. Oh, I'm getting that feeling. Oh, I'm kind of getting a flash of a visual. Oh, I kind of heard that word. So the first exercise is, how do you know when you know? The second question is, what do you refer as your source of intuition? So is that universal intelligence, God, higher powers, angels, soul wisdom? What do you call it? So you want to have your client say what their word is for source. Then the next question is, list and describe 2 times you followed your intuition and why you're really glad you did. So 2 times that you did, and then 2 times that you didn't. And this is just as important, and you wished you had. So when you did follow your intuition, how did you sense or know your intuition was speaking to you? And what made you trust it and follow it? Again, we want ourselves and our clients to start remembering and anchoring in, what was I feeling when I followed that and it was so accurate? Why did I believe it at that time, and why did I move forward with it? And the same as when you didn't follow it. What kept you from following your intuition in these 2 situations? When you didn't follow your intuition, what did you learn about yourself and the ways you tend to override your intuition? So these are really important questions for yourself, and again, for other people. As soon as they start reflecting, the more the person can start knowing themselves, right? Then they're going to be more likely to follow their intuition, to trust it. And then what or who supports you to listen and follow your intuition? And what are the practices, daily rituals, environments that make you receptive to your intuition? Like meditation, exercise, taking a bath, shower, whatever. What makes you receptive? And when I work with people in intuition, I'm going to create an intuition challenge sometime in the near future, is to start noticing just little things, to practice with small things, because people have these big decisions. You know, we've been in such incredibly challenging times, just crazy. I mean, and I know all our nervous systems are, you know, if you're sensitive, if you're sensitive at all, you're going to feel it, whether it's happening in your life or just in the world, you're going to feel it. And so we need to take, the first handout I gave you last week was about cutting out the noise. Like, what's some of the noise? And look through that worksheet and think about one place that you can quiet the noise. Like I had a client where she has a lot of anxiety. She's very intuitive, but she doesn't trust herself. And she's always asking me what my intuition is when she already knows. And so we finally came to the fact that she was getting these Facebook notices about the news, and that she would respond to that. So she turned off her Facebook notices for 3 weeks. And she said that she feels calmer, she feels more intuitive, because that's not grabbing her attention all the time. It's loud, it pulls you away from your center. And the other thing is, you know, she'll ask me a question and then I just always bring it back to her. So what are you sensing? And she almost always has an answer. Or I just reflect back, what I heard her say, or what I'm seeing, or what she's said in the past. So working with people's intuition is such a power tool for coaching. So really, I encourage you, even no matter who you're working with, having them do this exercise, because your mind is great. And we want to use our rational mind the mind is really good at executing things, making a plan, doing research, but it's limited. It's just has it's like a computer. It has a lot, but it doesn't have everything. But our intuition is unlimited. I mean, it's universal intelligence. It's the creative force. The answers are all there. And the wisdom, the insight, everything, it's all there. It's just like a radio station tuning into it instead of the other stations, like, what other people are saying, what our family's saying, what the news is saying, what the media is saying, all those things. We start giving our power outside of ourselves. And then our intuition tells us something different. And then we're like, well, I don't know. Well, And so the next part I want to go over, and then, if anytime you want to share something, put in the chat, is this my head talking? This was a handout from last week. Is this my head talking, or is this the voice of my heart or my intuition? So I've had different intuition teachers. I have one right now. She's, pretty cosmic, and we're like traveling all these dimensions, but kind of a more simpler, like kind of more grounded, practical, is when it's from your head, it's contracted. Your breath is shallow. There's maybe tension in your temples or your head. You're going to try to figure it out. It becomes circular and repetitive. I can always tell when I'm in my head. I literally make circles around my house when I'm in my head. It's like, and then I reverse it and, looping around. It's strategizing. And again, it's fine that your left brain and your rational mind you want both. They both are together, whole brain thinking. It needs more and more information. It's never satisfied. I just need to know more. I need to know more. I need to know more. And it has a charge to it. There's kind of like a charge, either you're excited, overexcited, just like, wishful thinking. Oh yeah, this, and I can give you an example of me following my intuition and not following my intuition. Is my first intuition was when I was 1989, I wanted to buy a house in Santa Barbara. And I've been looking for a long time. And then I found this house, and I had some requirements: access to nature, walking distance to school, 3 bedrooms, fireplace be nice. But the main thing was access to nature in a safe, good neighborhood. So I saw this in the paper, and I came here to this house, and I just knew. It was like a thunk. It wasn't like, but I also knew the neighborhood. It wasn't not far from where I lived. I knew the town. And so it has been just an amazing blessing to have this home. So then right before I was buying this home, my former boyfriend was like kind of a, very interesting, fascinating character. And he was very attuned to earthquakes. He would predict earthquakes all over the world. Like he just had that gift. So this house is on an earthquake fault. And he said, oh, Rebecca, you just can't buy this house. I'm in the process of buying it. He goes, you can't buy this. You can't buy it. You're going to have an earthquake. I'm just, it's going to happen, and you're going to lose everything. And then Roger's pre-girlfriend, we've had some interesting past relationship. She said the same thing, and she was a psychic. So I'm getting this information, even though I had this knowing to buy the house, but then I'm getting this, and I'm thinking, is God trying to warn me? Like, am I not paying attention? And, here these two people, this, my last boyfriend, he could predict it. I mean, he was predicting him all the time. He moved out of town because of it. He moved to another state like that week. And so that was where I had to test my intuition. And even though, I just said, if I'm supposed to, if this is a warning, just give me that feeling. And I didn't. I had fear, but I didn't have an intuition. So I bought the house, and 34 years later, and there may be an earthquake, but I've had good 34 years anyway. Second time, I always wanted to live by a river with mountains. I'm a river mountain kind of person. That's my element, big trees. So Roger and I were teaching in Oregon and a teaching workshop at a hospital, and we were driving by this area, and here's this little cabin on a river island. And I just was like, I got so excited, we just bought it. That was not intuitive. That was excitement. That was projecting all like, like I'm a little woods fairy, and I've got my woods and the deer and the river island. And it turned out to be a freaking nightmare. There's a movie, a movie called The Money Pit with Tom Hanks. Totally, I mean, absolutely. It was just totally that. And I had to deal with it for 7 years. It was a nightmare. I ended up, having to put a new foundation, and the renters left the house. It took a year. The house was in the market. Nobody bought it. Nobody's renting it. But in the end, I broke even. But I learned the difference between excitement and projecting this fits my picture. I didn't do my homework. The people there were like rednecks and alcoholics, and there was shootings on that island, and that river ended up drying up. That was it dried up the area that I wanted. It was right in front of my house. And I was pretty mad at myself because it was a lot of work and it was financially difficult. And then, but that's where we forgive ourselves, because I learned so much. And I learned that I don't really want to have two houses. And I learned I can just take a vacation these places. I don't have to live there. And I learned that excitement is not enthusiasm, or something looks like it's great, but I didn't really do the homework. I didn't really spend enough time dropping in to see because I wanted it to work, right? So that's a big difference. So when you're in your head, it has an urgent feeling. It's fearful. It has a judgmental quality to it, and it'll try to convince you it's your intuition. It's loud. It's louder, and your intuition or your heart is quieter. It's subtle. It's neutral. There's no charge, and it's a knowing. It comes as a visual, a word, a tug, a sense, or a knowing in your body or gut or your heart. And it doesn't debate, try to convince you. It's just a knowing. It's like a thunk, I know. And when you have it, I know you've all had that. And I've had people try to convince me out of that knowing because they don't like it. A lot of times my knowings aren't very popular. But then once I know, it's like, I just know. And I don't really need anybody to validate it. But then it has the courage to follow it, right? Because sometimes it's different than what my family would want, or it's different than what my colleagues would think, or it's different what the world would understand. So it takes courage. So I'm not going to go through this process with you, but you can look at this sheet. Is doing a process where you take something that you want guidance on and discern the difference. Try it, say out loud. My head says, my head says. So you take up the thing that you're trying to decide about, or you're trying to get an intuitive hit about. Then put your hand on your heart and maybe your belly, and it's all on this worksheet. My heart says, you're breathing deep. My heart says, or my belly says, or my soul says, whatever your words are, and see what's different. So you start learning the different qualities. Again, with the head, it's kind of jaggedy. With the heart and intuition, it's smooth. It's a flow. It's like kind of deepening, or it's just a kind of a solid feeling. It's like just. So these are a couple practices. Again, these are for you and your clients. And then discerning the energy signatures of wishful thinking and intuition. And so that's when I was telling you the house I bought in Oregon was wishful thinking. And it bounces around when you have wishful thinking. It's kind of agitated. It doesn't feel steady. It's not settled. It's kind of grabbing and a pushing feeling. It changes like one thing, and then it changes and it changes, keeps changing. It always be second guessing. You keep questioning and overthinking, overanalyzing, asking others. It looks outward for validation, like it looks for signs. And, people, like I know some people that I've worked with and friends, they're always looking for a sign. Like, oh, I have to have, a hawk fly over my head. And I mean, I have signs all the time. I mean, I have things with nature. Like I kissed a dragonfly that was like land right there. But I didn't look for a sign, because sometimes signs show up and sometimes they don't. So we don't have to be, it's great if signs come for you, but not to rely on them, because there's a knowing already. You don't have to have some validation. It projects into the wishful thinking of what it wants instead of really what the reality is. Again, it's not optimistic. It's not positive thinking. Intuition's not that. It projects and only what it wants. It ignores red flags. It justifies its perspective, wishful thinking. Well, I know I'm going to do this. I just know it. It creates a story to make a person fit the fantasy. So, or it does not feel true. There's a feeling where you get what just feels true. True for you, anyway. And then, so I gave an example that you can look at of a client that we worked through her wishful thinking. And so before I move on, is there any questions or comments you want to make about anything we've been talking about, or anything about your intuition? Or we're going to talk about working with others and intuition, like what's keeping you from your intuition? What keeps you from following your intuition? Is that you don't trust it? You don't know what it is? A lot of times people expect an answer like this, and I always like to give the image of like you're in the ocean, you got a beach ball, and you're trying to get an answer. That's the beach ball, and it keeps floating. The more you grasp for it, the farther away it goes. But you're this now. I need the answer now. I need it now. And that's what the mind says. But if you just go onto shore, the beach ball washes up. So the answer will arrive when it's time to arrive. So the intention is, I want my highest good to be revealed. I'm open, receptive, willing. I'm willing to take action on how I'm guided. Then it may be 2 or 3 days later. It might be a month later. It might be a minute later. But you know that you have already opened up to that, and that intention is a magnet to that guidance. Your intention to be in your highest self and to follow the highest good, because your highest good is the highest good for everyone, that will be met. And sometimes we think, oh, well, I have all these challenges, and your intuition is here to navigate those. creative. It's creative. It finds different things, what to do, what to think. I know Rhonda is extremely intuitive with our business. She's like, Miss Detective USA. I mean, she like, you give her something, she'll find out. She's just very intuitive that way. It's one of her powers. So I'm going to look at the chat and see if you have any questions or comments about your own intuition or. Yes.
Rebecca, do you want us to just write them in as the form of questions, or can we?
You can just say it. Just say, speak it right now. Yeah,
all
good.
Right, good. By the time I figured out how to type it in, it might say.
Just talk it.
Okay, so I'm really loving what you're saying and really listening, and I think there's a couple of thoughts that I had about intuition and how it's affected me or not affected me. Growing up in the 60s, in when women were just starting to come into their own power, in a sense, women's intuition was looked at as some kind of wishy-washy kind of thing. So the word intuition always, at some point, had that feeling to me that it was some crazy thing that women had and no one really validated it and that type of thing. So I came from that mindset. Even though I didn't buy that, I still knew it. Mm-hmm. Then I began to think about discernment almost as intuition, like something saying, no, you need to stay away from this. This is not where you need to go. So I think I started looking and thinking, well, I had discernment. You mentioned some of your past in your spiritual life. I grew up very Catholic. I'm recovering from that. And I'm still in the process of the fear factor, in the needing the signs and making sure you're always doing the right thing, that I think I spent a lot of time looking from without rather than looking from within. And that is what I'm developing now. I always say, I've worked out all my life. I've developed some other muscles, but I never developed that intuitive muscle because it was there, but I could never still myself to really listen. And it's funny that you're mentioning about homes, because one of the things that I'm struggling with is I do have a home here where I live in Massachusetts, and I have had one in Maine for 60 years. And I don't want to let go of that. But I still have things that I know that have to be done. And so I keep waffling back and forth. Well, should I do this? Should I do that? And it's quietly, when I go up there and I sit now, it's like, just be. This doesn't have to be a place where I've got 6 kids and 2 grandchildren. I can't take them all up to this 3-bedroom home, whereas I have 13 rooms back here so we can accommodate. But it finally came to me that this was my place. This was a place that was much smaller, that would really accommodate me and or 1 or 2 others. That it wasn't to make another home replicate what was here up there. And so that's in taking the time to spend more time up there and to listen and to stop looking at, well, I should add this and this and this. I'm feeling more at peace when I'm there now. So I'm really working on trying to just come from within and believe. And I don't know, I mean, I believe in God. I believe in spirit a lot. I also believe in the feminine God. Probably I'm closer to believing more in the feminine side of God because of patriarchy. It sort of left a kind of a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm still working through those things. But I would love, is there a difference? Do you see a difference between discernment and intuition? I guess that's the long and the
I thank you so much for sharing. And what you said is that when I went up to the other house and I was just quiet, then it was kind of revealed to you, right? When we quiet our mind,
right,
we stop thinking, analyzing, trying to make a plan, think what we should do.
Mhm.
And then we get a feeling or a sense of peace, like, oh, another possibility. Maybe this is just my space where I can spend a little more time alone. I don't have to make this because you were quiet, right?
Right.
And so discern, I think you can call anything whatever you want. The thing about intuition now is so many famous people, businessmen, like Steve Jobs, he said his whole thing was around intuition, like his whole, and scientists. And so it's not, it's a different time. And people who are very successful financially and even the business world, they follow their gut.
Mhm.
Their gut, and that's how they make decisions. They get information,
Mhm.
but then in the end, they follow their gut, and that makes them successful. So now it's a different world. It's like the successful people are following their, like Oprah, and they all talk about, and even Einstein talked about intuition was his most important thing. So it's a different time, and people are, right now, we need our intuition more than ever because we're navigating unknown waters, right?
Right.
And we need like a lighthouse, like help us beam through, find our way. And so I think calling it whatever word is for you, because it's just you.
Mhm.
So discernment, that to me is like wisdom, discernment,
Mhm.
light.
Yeah.
So I think that's perfect.
Okay.
Because if we have anytime we have a meaning that doesn't feel good, then we don't want to use that word.
Mhm.
We find a word that we resonate with that makes us feel good.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So good to meet you.
Same here.
Hey, and Rhonda?
Unmute. I think my mistake with intuition has been sometimes ordering it around like it's my trick dog or something. It doesn't perform when you want it to, right?
Mhm.
I mean, or like, you can't give it a treat and go, oh, give me a sign. It'll just kind of like, well, I'm not doing that. And so that's been a learning experience during this whole last 18 months. And then also it's kind of learning how to be, like I said, it's not a trick dog. You can't order it around. But I know that sometimes my intuition is persistent when there's something that I'm supposed to, or that is mine to do. It repeats itself, but it's quiet, and it's not like a rumination, like, oh my God, I need to do this. It's not like that. It's very, very quiet and kind of like, you need to call that person. You need to
Beautiful.
call that person. And then you kind of see, but ruminating is just, oh, I can get in all kinds of trouble with that because I tend to think about stuff a lot, kind of, wear myself out, but I can't order my intuition around.
I know.
I try, but it doesn't work.
It's just like that beach ball, like, you're trying to grab it, like, I need the answer, tell me what to do. And it just goes farther and farther away. And you finally let go, surrender, go on the beach, washes right up, you know what to do. Yeah, it doesn't, sometimes we get it just like that, it's just right there. And other times we're trying to make a decision, but we need to like kind of tune out the noise, take a walk, take a shower, take a bath. Journaling to me is a huge way of accessing intuition. Ask a question, then just write without taking your pen off the paper for 10, 12 minutes. Even if it says, like, some of the stuff I was reading some journaling I was doing the other day where I was just writing, sound like a total crazy person. It was like, I don't know. It was all over the place. But what it was is it in the end, it was, for me, I just needed to empty the craziness. I just needed to voice this chaotic, crazy mind. And then at the end of it, Did I get an answer? No, but I was calmer. And then later that day, I got like, oh, I think this is the next step. So intuition doesn't always tell you the whole thing. Oh, this is going to work out. You're going to have this amazing coaching business, or, you know, this fantastic relationship. It doesn't tell you all the time. It just tells you the next step. And that's why it's so present. You have to be present because it's only in the present. And then, you know, it's only in the present. You can't like, I mean, we can be psychic, and, you know, I'm sure you all have things that you feel you see that's in the future. And, you know, those are psychic abilities. But when it comes to just intuition, making decisions, or even tuning into your body, that's your body's intuition, your body's messages. And that's a big, one of my strong areas, because I've had a lot of health and body issues my whole life. And so I've had to learn to really listen to my body and to ask it questions. And everything I've gone through, I've healed of, but I had to go through pain and go through, you know, just like that panicky feeling like, oh, I'm dealing with this health issue. You know, it's like I'm going through that, but just accepting the fear, letting it be there. I don't suppress anything, because suppression always ends up somatizing your body. I know that one inside and out. So yes, thank you, Rhonda, for sharing that your intuition comes as a quiet, yes.
I have a small question about the difference between instinct and intuition.
Mm-hmm. Instinct is kind of, that's more kind of what I talked about. I don't know if I didn't get that handout, but they call it brain knowing or intuition, heart intuition, gut intuition. And the gut is more of an instinctual thing. So that tends to be, this is okay and a good thing, or this is not a good thing. This person's a good thing, this is not a good thing. It's a body thing that's how we've survived, right? So we know, you know, we're out in the woods. Oh, you know, we sense something. I should turn left, you know, I should go this way because on this path, there's some kind of danger. We might not know what it is. And then, so that's more gut. Heart intuition, soul, spiritual intuition is not so based on survival. It's based on your expansion and your soul and your consciousness. And so it doesn't care so much if you're going to have a hard time following it, whereas your instincts will just keep you safe and out of danger. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So, Dan.
Unmute yourself, please, Deanne.
I worked with a client last week, and I decided to go into the issue of intuition with her. And she right away said, oh, I get goosebumps, or I feel it in my gut, kind of thing. And we then used one particular situation in her life where she needed to make a decision about what she was going to do. And she said, well, my gut says this, but, and then she used words like should and ought. And those were like the stumbling blocks. The shoulds and the oughts all came from up here. And so she went on further to say, where did I learn those shoulds and oughts? Well, some of them came from her church upbringing. You know, some of them came from her parents. And it just led into a very rich, in-depth thing where she recognized, you know what? I need to trust myself. Mm-hmm. And that took a lot of courage.
That's beautiful, Deanne. That's so, you know, high five on leading her through that your, you know, that your intuition was to help her with her intuition. And I mean, what a powerful gift.
Well, I wanted to try out what you had given us.
This
is a good time to do it.
That's so perfect. And right away, you know, you were able to see like tune into the words like should and ought, which are never intuition, right? Those are the mind, the head, the psyche, the programming. and it's so powerful when we can help ourselves and friends, clients to start and giving them permission to follow it too. I mean, that's so much in coaching is we're giving people permission to honor who they truly are
Yes.
and what's coming. That's we're a witness, we're a sacred mirror. We're aligning with that. And when you have that alignment, those believing eyes, and you trust that person with their intuition, it really is, it's life-changing.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So I'm going to go over a couple things really quick because we just have a few more minutes. So I sent this tune into your intuition process, and I'm not going to go through it, but you can, because I think that I sent that last week. And the main things is that you take some deep breaths, you get grounded. You can't access your intuition when you're spinning in your head. You have to be in your body. And I like to just go outside. I take my shoes off and go outside, put my feet on the earth as much as possible. Because the electromagnetic, it relieves all that EMF energy within 20, 30 minutes. And I just get connected because otherwise I'm spinning. Like I get up here, like I'm almost like over here. And so getting grounded, and one of the ways to get grounded is just to notice your senses, what you see around you. So you can lead yourself through this process and also your clients. And one of the main things I want to say is you start with the inquiry, I wonder, instead of I need to get the answer or what should I do? Because those are head questions. It wants a certainty, it wants an exact answer, it's very rational. And when you come from I wonder is curious and open. What should I do is like blocked and limited. And, so you start with I wonder, it quiets down the brain. And it's just like in coaching, we'd say, I'm curious about this with you, or I wonder if you did this, what might happen. So then you're creating your affirmation or your invocation of I'm open and available to receive. I say, I wonder. You ask your intuition question, the name of the source, your source, or the name of your intuition. And then you ask your question. I wonder, like I had a really bad back situation like in April and May. And I wonder if it's like I'm holding something emotionally. I'm wondering if it's my posture. I'm wondering if it's the food I'm eating is causing inflammation. I'm wondering what the message is here. I just went into I wonder. And it was a process. I accepted it was extremely painful. And I have a very high pain tolerance. And it was like off the charts for a couple or 3 months. And I kept wondering and then asking for my intuition. I was just guided all the way along. And I really did some powerful inner emotional work that I thought I'd already done it, but I hadn't. And I was holding it literally in my body. But it was because I was curious. And then I wonder, like, if that, I wonder if chiropractic, I wonder what kind of chiropractor, what kind of body work would be good for this. And so I, got referrals, and then I would just tune in to like, talking to them and seeing who feels right. So it staying in I wonder. And then you write down, and then give voice to your fears. I'm afraid of, like, I was afraid, like, when am I going to have this for the rest of my life? I had an MRI. It looked like bad news, and I went to the, surgeons to read the MRI, and they're like, oh, you have to have surgery and you need injections. And, I was, severe pain, and, injections sounded kind of tempting at the time, but I was afraid that I was going to keep having this pain. And what if I can't like sleep anymore? And what if I can, all my fears, and what if I can't turn this around? What if I'm in pain for the rest of my life? Those are my fears. So like unloading those fears so that you're giving voice and you're emptying taking out the trash, you're just moving the energy, because you have to move what's in the way to be able to be open and receptive. Okay, so the next thing is, and then you ask the question, my ego mind says, blah, 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 blah. And you can see this example here. My head says, and you write down what your head says about the situation. And then after you've done that, you take a deep breath and you look around the room, get connected to the present moment again. You're bringing yourself back into body. And then I have 9 or 19, if better, possible solutions. And it could be anything, it could just be ridiculous, whatever, but just brainstorming. This is just like Circle of Life, or brainstorm, right? On the brainstorming sheet. But this is like just another level of it. This is like more intuitive. So the example I have here is, I'm not doing well financially. I wonder if I'm not charging enough because of underlying self-beliefs, and I need help with that. Or I avoid getting clear on my financial situation, and maybe getting a financial advisor support to make a sound financial plan. Maybe I'm not doing well financially because I'm scattered and overwhelmed. Maybe I need help to get a realistic step-by-step, or hire a business coach. Or maybe I need to cut expenses. So you just like write down these things, just empty, empty, empty. And after you've done that, I wonder, then you name, right? Then you stop and you name things that give you joy and pleasure, that you're grateful for. So you're kind of going all these different energies, clearing, voicing, I wonder. And then at the very end, now say your question out loud to your intuition. My intuition says, you've just done this process. What after all that, what does it say? Then take action on it right away. Your intuition gets stronger every time you take action on it. You get confident, you see the results. That's why I trust my intuition, because when I didn't follow it and when I do, it's just, I'm always glad. And so then just move to the next intuitive yes. And it can be something simple. It'd be like, I just need to take an hour to myself today. That it may not be like the grand answer, but that's what you need. Just like you did, Deborah, taking some time up at your house and just being quiet. Somehow your intuition was guiding you.
Right.
Or your, I call it, source or whatever. So I know it just have 3 minutes left. Can we go extra 5 minutes, Glenn? Glenn. Okay. So I know we're moving right along, but try this out. The last one is in coaching. So think of a time you had an idea or a plan that you were going to cover in your coaching session, but during your session, your intuition kind of led you a different way, a different approach, which turned out to be more beneficial for your client. What did you notice? Does anybody have any sharing on that? Walter, you're nodding your head.
Well, I'm not there yet because I'm still only in phase
Right.
1.
Yeah, Walter was nodding his head. Walter, can we hear from you?
Yeah. There have been instances where I have gotten with others in regards to a particular schedule. And it was very structured, engineered, micromanaged. And I lobbied for more looseness. And another person in a circle says, well, it's not going to be perfect. And I said, exactly, because I have a certain.
Oop, you got frozen.
That head stuff, that's head stuff that's going on. But where is there room for to flow? Where is the room for spirit to flow? And that's with the more opening of a latitude of it's going to be perfect when I allow the unseen to show up, and it shows up perfectly.
Beautiful. Can you give an example of that?
Trying to remember how that went. Pretty much the lady I was working with says, well, you know, all the marriages that I've ever performed here, you know, they never go according to ways. Something, it doesn't happen perfectly. And my answer was, yes, it is perfect, but not perfect head perfect. It's perfect as it should be when you invite spirit.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Walter. I love that. That's the soul view, right? Soul view instead of like just limited head, egotistical. Beautiful. Anybody else? Or did you have a time that you didn't follow your intuition during a coaching session? And what did you notice that when you didn't follow it? Either one. Anybody have an experience where you kind of had a plan, you know, and then you kind of got the intuition, well, actually, I need to kind of like shift this because this is what's happening instead. Dan.
Yeah. When I started out, I figured, oh my goodness, I have to stick to this agenda here. And one of the women that I was coaching had been a coach herself, not in the same process, but you know, she was aware of what went on in coaching. She wasn't needing some of the things in the beginning.
Right.
And I'm thinking, well, it's part of the program. And after a while, we discussed it, and it became quite clear.
Yeah, that's so good. And that's, you know, that I'm so glad you shared that because you learn the process. It's a good structure, you know, to start with. But there are clients that, you know, I have them do the circle and then they just kind of want it. They do the blueprint once or something. And we never hardly touch it again. That's not what they're wanting, and they're paying me. And so I'm just trying to tune into, we always leave with an action step. I always have them state their affirmation. So they're always moving forward. And I always do follow up on like, well, how did that go? These are the things you were committed to in your self-care and your life or your goals or whatever. But then the rest kind of just like, you know, like, I just have to pay attention, you know, so with Circle of Life, there's structure. So it kind of helps you, the coach, and the client to have like something to kind of focus.
Yeah.
But then the flow is in the coaching.
Exactly. But those are like tools that you can pick out any order you want.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
It takes it out of the one size fits all thing, you know, like it's not one size fits all. There are certain structures, but we've got to look for individuality in spirit and flow, spontaneity that's inside of it also.
Well, absolutely. The structure is to support like a grounding.
Yeah.
And it helps to bring out the intuition because you're talking about these things. And then sometimes people like, you know, like I had a session with a client that I've done probably maybe 4 sessions with. And we just like, I mean, she just needed to like shake out a bunch of anger. And she's like a person who's very suppressed. And she, you know, she wanted to do a ritual for birthday because I do birthday coaching. It's one of my big birthday coaching. It's one of my big things. And so no way was she ready to like settle down or be quiet. She, you know, I just put on some rock and roll. She like, I just helped her to say all the stuff that I knew she was mad about because she's so repressed. And then she'd be laughing and saying it. And it was like, we did that for quite a while. And I had a whole other different thing I thought I was going to do, but it was like, I could see her just like this. And whereas another person, I can see, we just need to get still, you know, and quiet. And we always want to use the mind-body practices, no matter what they are, whether it's moving and dancing or quieting down, because the breathing practices, whatever you use, those are so key for bringing the person into harmony and into balance so that they can actually do the coaching work. So, is there any challenges? Oh, and we probably need to go in a minute here. Is there anything else that you find challenging regarding using your intuition in sessions or helping your clients access their intuition?
Rebecca, real quick. In
Yeah.
2018, I did a coach training called Growth Coaching, and we had to do practice clients. And I took on a practice client who was transgender, and I knew I was over my head when I took the client, and I shouldn't have taken the client. I don't think, I saw like later on that I wasn't sure what the pronouns are, and I just go, I'm over my head. I just thinking I should have listened to that internal going, this is a little beyond your scope here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
We're not, yes, I just can't, we can't, not everybody is our client. So
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah. And so sometimes in coaching, I think what part of why I feel pretty intuitive in coaching, because I've been doing it a long time. Anything you do a lot of, you become intuitive. I'm sure Dr. Bakshi was very intuitive as a heart surgeon. You know, I mean, there's, the skills, right? But then there's the intuition too. And then as a coach, I know, Colin, that you have structures, processes, but then it's your intuition. That's what do I bring forward here? What is that person, So is there anything you want to say about that?
No, I think you're right about that. There's only one qualifier that I have to do it for myself a lot of times. It's the difference between the subconscious and the supraconscious. The subconscious is what I get into many times because this is, because we have learned so much, we have had so much of knowledge, so much of judgment we have done, we've gone through the life experiences. And when we go through life experiences, a lot of things become automatic. And so is it coming from that kind of habit, learning?
Yes.
And coming out into this versus the energy alignment vertically, that really is what the intuition is all about. It's not coming from deep subconscious, but it's come from supraconscious. So that, that question many times I have to figure out. And honestly, it goes into a realm of what I never knew. If I knew things, then I know it's not subconscious. It's not intuition. I mean, we read a lot and we know, I read this in the book and all that stuff. As soon as I know that I know, it's not intuition.
Wow. Yeah, I have that saying, as soon as I think I know something, like how it really is, I know then I'm very clear that I don't know. So it's like, I know. But there is, everything's kind of a paradox, right?
It is.
So the only knowing you can have is really in the present moment. And again, starting to understand what it feels like as you're, that kind of quieter thing you were talking about, Rhonda, like kind of was more of a quiet, it's sustained. It kept doing it, but it wasn't like yelling, like, you better do this, or this is going to happen, bang, bang, bang. It's not like that. It's just kind of, and I always encourage my clients when they're kind of shaky on their intuition is to start with small things. So like, guess who's on, when the phone rings, guess who it is? See what you think the weather's going to be tomorrow. Think about like, that if you just feel this feeling like I'm going to step outside and see something, just little things, because we want to build that muscle and that confidence. So, because when you're making big decisions that are, should I move? Should I start this new career? Should I stay in this relationship? Should I get in this relationship? what should I do with the rest of my life, whatever. I mean, those are just so big that we want to start with smaller things. And then the intuition doesn't always give you like the whole map. It just gives you right now, this is what I know.
The time frame is also very fascinating. Time to leave someplace or time to shut up, whatever.
And I think a lot of time is for me to shut up.
Some situations tell you, oh man.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, I don't know what to do, but then life just does it.
Yep.
It's like I have, my prayers, like, and I'd be happy to write out and send that my morning prayer that I say, or my invocation. And then I just have to trust. And then sometimes I don't know. And then life decides for me. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that didn't work out. Oh, well, that happened. Sometimes it's just like that because I don't have any particular guidance.
Mhm.
So I go, well, that's how the universe is handling it, just doing it for me. And other times I feel I'm meant to decide something. And I'm called to that. Like, you need to decide, you need to tune in. So thank you all for your sharing. So good to see all of you. I'm not sure what our topic is in 2 weeks, but I'll run it by Kalind and we'll send it out to you. So I don't know if it's October 5th or something like that. I don't know what the date is. Don't have that in front of me. But, thank you again for just your presence and your wisdom and for participation. And, if you want to shoot me an email, if you've done any of these things or you found them helpful, I'd love to hear about it.